Can KDP be a full-time income? Well, the short answer is yes, but the long answer is that it really depends on your own personal situation and what a full-time income is to you. So is KDP worth it to even get started? I mean, that also depends on you and the things that you want to get out of KDP. So for the long answer, I'm going to deep dive into all of these different types of scenarios, and hopefully you can come up with a judgment from that on whether or not KDP is worth it to you and if you can make a full-time income with it. So let's get started talking about full-time income. So depending on what country you're from, your currency is going to be different, your full-time income is going to be different. I mean, everything is going to be different because we're all different people, we all have different jobs, and the cost of living is different for everyone. So I might spend $700 a month on groceries and someone else might spend $300 a month on groceries. So your bills are also going to be different, things like that, rent, utilities, whether or not you have pets or kids, etc. So a full-time income for someone may be $500 a week, and that might be fine. But for someone else, they might need to make $2,000 a week. So it's all going to depend on you and your own situation. So KDP doesn't have a limit on how much money you can actually make with it. So technically, you can make whatever full-time income you have with KDP. There is no cap. That means you can make like $10 million a day with KDP, and that's perfectly fine. I don't think anybody has ever made that much money with KDP, but I just want to put out there that it is a possibility to make KDP a full-time income. But how realistic is that? I mean, obviously making $10 million a day probably isn't very realistic, although it is a possibility since there is no cap. So let's just do an example. If you make $500 a week. So in a month, that's $2,000 that you need to be making. There are plenty of people making thousands of dollars a month with KDP, but is that really easy? How realistic is it? So I don't think that that is easy. I think that you can scale your business to that level, and I think that you can end up making that kind of money. But if you're trying to replace your income right away or in a month or two, quit your job and do this full time, then making $2,000 a month is probably unrealistic. Yes, there are these people who publish one book or publish a few books and they start making thousands right away, but that is mostly a small percentage of people. So kind of going off into another scenario with that, let's say you just want KDP to pay for your car. So you pay $300 a month for your car. That's less than $100 a week you'd have to make with KDP. Much more doable. And I mean, it depends how much royalties you get per your book as well. So let's say you do $1 royalty per book. That means you'd have to sell 300 units in order to make $300 a month. So this is where there's all these different scenarios and things that kind of go into whether or not KDP can replace your full-time income and whether or not KDP is worth it. So is it worth it to you to put in, I'm not even sure how many hours, but let's say you have to make like 150 books. So that way they sell twice a month, and that way you make the $300 a month. I mean, that's going to be hours and hours and hours of time. So is it worth it to you to spend, let's just put out a random number, like 500 hours on KDP in order to be able to pay off your car payment? Now, it may not take you 500 hours and it may not take you 150 books, because what you could also do is, let's say you have your royalties at $4 a royalty or even $3 a royalty. So if you're at $3 a royalty, then you need to sell 100 units in order to make $300 a month. Do you see what I'm getting at here? You can kind of make more money without actually having to work harder. So you can't always put your prices up on every book. That's going to depend on your niche and your competitors and everything like that. And hopefully you do have a high quality book, so people would still want to buy it if it's more money. But this all goes into whether or not it's worth it to you and whether or not it can be a full-time income. Now, I think anybody can do well with KDP, but I'm not sure if everybody can replace their full-time income. And that's because it takes a long time for most people to find any sort of success with KDP. I'll use my own journey for example. So I started KDP in December 2021, but I didn't really take it seriously until like 2022 around January or February. And then I started really learning and deep diving into KDP and publishing all these different kinds of books. And now I have around 230 or 40 books, somewhere around there. And it is currently March 2023. So that's well over a year of doing KDP, about a year and like 3 months or so far. And I am just starting to almost get to $300 a month with KDP. So, I mean, that really depends how much you want to work and how many hours you want to put into this, how motivated you are. Because if you're just doing this to make a quick buck, you're not going to make a full-time income with KDP. And I mean, I'll just leave that portion of the video there because I can probably rant for a while. And I'm going to get into, is KDP worth it? So this is all going to be individual to you. So is it worth it to you? So let's use my journey for example, to spend a little over a year on KDP and then finally being able to pay your car payment of $300 a month. But it took you over a year of working KDP in order to do that. And I'm not sure how many hours I've actually worked KDP, but I have worked a lot. And I have over 200 books in order to do this. So that's kind of dependent on you. For me personally, it is totally worth it because all of my sales right now, other than like 4 from some ads I did run before, are all organic. So that means if I do absolutely nothing, so let's just say like I decide to quit KDP, which I like don't plan on doing, but let's just say I decide to like quit KDP right now, I'm still going to be making $300 a month. Well, I'm not there yet, but I've been around like $250-ish a month. So to me, that's pretty incredible. For about a year's worth of work, and then I have passive income of $250 a month, that is 100% worth it to me. Because even if I just do nothing, you know, for the next 5, 10, 15 years, whatever, like however long Amazon is around, those books are going to continue selling and it's going to be passive income. So to me, it's worth it. Now, like I said, this all depends on your scenario. Do your books sell organically? Organic means that they are selling without ads. Or do your books only sell with ads? And if they do, then you most likely will have to put in time at least once a day or once every few days to check on your ad campaigns and make sure you're still making a profit and everything is going well. So I really strive to have books that sell organically, and that's what I try to aim for right now, because if I decide I don't want to do KDP anymore, I don't want to have to not be making sales. Like, I want to still be making money. I want this to be passive to a point where I don't have to do anything and I can make like $2,000 a month. So like that is my ultimate goal, because for me, a full-time income is going to be between $1,500 to $2,500 a month, depending on my rent and other bills that I have. So that is the ultimate goal, is to be able to do nothing but still be bringing that money in. So to me, KDP is worth it, because in typical corporate America, you work until you're 60, or even now I feel like 70, and some people even more. And then you probably get to retire, but most of the time by then, you aren't able to really go out and explore and do things, or you don't have the money to retire, and you waste all of this time working for a corporate. And I don't like saying the word waste, but if you don't love your job and you don't feel like you're making a positive difference, then to me, it kind of is a waste. But that's my own personal opinion. So you could have been doing so many other things, but now you're at the point where you don't have the extra money to travel, and you're older, where you're not really physically able to go and do all these things you want to do. Like, let's say you wanted to like bike a mountain or something, but if you're 75 years old and you just retired, you can't do that. So to me, if I spend about a year on KDP and I make about $250, if I spend another year on KDP and I duplicate that, I'm at $500. Another year and another year, $1,000. And then 4 more years, I'm at $2,000, which is what I want to be at. So let's say, I don't know what that was, maybe another 8 years or something. I work for another 8 years, where also this should be easier. Like, now that I'm learning and I kind of know what I'm doing better, like I should be able to accomplish more sales a lot quicker. But let's just use 8 years, for example. I worked another 8 years on KDP. I'm now making $2,000 a month passively. I can now retire. Like, that to me is worth it. It may not be worth it to you. You might rather do something else. You might love your job or love your career. You might not want to put in all that effort and then wait for it. And I also understand that there is some fear with that too, because at any moment, KDP can terminate your account. And if your account gets terminated, you can't open another one, you don't get royalties, and you're just done. And I mean, KDP should not do that without a solid reason. But I mean, there's so many terms and conditions, and I definitely do my best to follow them because I don't want that to happen. But I understand why some people are hesitant to spend that long on their KDP business and then just worry about it being terminated or things like that. So I totally understand. So if it's not worth it to you, it's okay. But KDP is not easy, okay? Yes, it can be a full-time income, and yes, I believe it is worth it, but I don't think it's worth it to everybody, and I don't think it's going to be a full-time income for everybody. So if you're going to start this journey, then you need to be setting realistic expectations. You're not going to be a best-selling author right away, most likely. I mean, again, there's like that 1% of people that just do amazing and like get to retire in a month, and that's like awesome for them. But I'm talking to the majority of people here. You're going to spend hours and hours on this business. You're going to not make sales. You're going to struggle. You're going to get unmotivated. You're going to get upset. You're going to get frustrated. You're going to make 500 books or 100 books, and you're going to be wondering why you're still not making enough money. You're going to spend 100 plus hours on this business to barely make anything. But then when it finally clicks in and you finally understand how to make a book that sells, you're going to start seeing those profits come in, and you're going to start seeing $50 a month, $75 a month, $100 a month, and then you're going to get to $500 a month, $1,000 a month. But this may take you 5 years. It might take you 10 years. It might take you 6 months. It might take you a month and a half. You might have to spend money in order to do this, but you do not need to spend money to make money with KDP. But Canva, for example, you could do the free version, but they also have the pro, which is like $12.99 a month. You could buy courses. There's plenty of courses out there, and I've bought some of them, and they're very, very helpful. You could buy tools like Helium 10, Publisher Rocket, and there's just tons and tons of KDP tools out there. Or you could do it all the free way. There's so many different avenues and ways to go about KDP. Everybody's journey is not going to be the same. But if you're going to start, just set realistic expectations. I think KDP is amazing. I think it's worth it. I think you can make this your full-time income regardless whether it's $200 a week or $2,000 a week. I've seen people who make incredible like income reports with KDP. So it's all possible out there. There is no cap. But how quickly that's going to happen, how much effort you have to put in, that's all going to be different depending on who you are. So I hope this video was helpful, and I really hope you kind of gathered some insight on whether or not KDP is right for you. But honestly, if you even think about KDP a little bit, like you think it might work for you, then just give it a try. It's free to start KDP, free to start an account. Just give it a try, see if you like it, see how you are with publishing books, and go from there. So I hope you all start KDP if that's something that you really want to do, and I hope your businesses have tons of success. So thank you so much for watching and listening to this video, and I hope that you have a great day.